Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2024 John Deere Classic DFS Tactics show. First off, happy Independence Day, happy 4th of July to wherever you are in this great country of ours. Hopefully you have a lot of good plans to grill out, watch the Nathan's Hot Dog contest. Perhaps you're taking in your own version of that contest. But happy 4th of July to everybody. We are here for everything John Deere Classic for your DFS slate. We're going to be covering the projected forecast, ownerships, of course my rankings, everything that you need to win this week with the John Deere. I am quite excited, so don't mind the fireworks and occasional flashes of light that might come through as people are already celebrating around me. But we are here for the John Deere, so let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter golf gambler and a much better golf DFS player. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where earlier this week I posted some research around the past 10 winners of the John Deere Classic, the patterns that those winners followed, and the players in the field this week who fit that criteria. So if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, then give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and my top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That comes out every Wednesday night after the DFS Tactics show, so that'll come out later this evening. If you want to see those pieces of information, give me a follow over at X as well. Lastly, Gabe's handle is in the description. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. It's a great way to start your week of preparation. And if you are a subscriber to his article, you're going to be able to join us in his Substack chat after the Calls DFS Tactics show as we continue the DFS talk over there. It's always a great discussion every week. Highly suggest you subscribe to that article again and join us over there. And you go show him some support, follow him over on social media. Lastly, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you all. In addition to your winner this week, I just realized I needed to type up a quick poll question, so I'll be doing that here momentarily. Do you have any plans for the 4th? Would love to hear what the community is up to this week. So without any further ado, let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2024 John Deere Classic. And we start, as we always do, on a Wednesday evening with the extended forecast, the super forecast over at Windfinder. Let me start a poll here very quickly. I'll post this poll question here for the players who are playing this week, who also played last week at the Rocket Mortgage. How much are you factoring in last week's performance? Not at all, little, moderate, significant amount, or quite a bit. We turn our attention to the super forecast here at Windfinder, and it does not appear that Silvis, Illinois got a whole lot of rain like they were projected to on Tuesday, or if they did, it didn't have a significant effect on the golf course, as several players have said they are shocked a little bit by how firm the fairways are. So it doesn't seem like the rain, if they had any, was much of a factor. But we look at tomorrow and Friday, which we're going to focus on, of course, trying to get 6-6 lineups through. Tomorrow looks pretty hectic in regards to the rain coming in. Earlier today, there was a pretty clear advantage for the Thursday AM portion, but I don't see that now, especially with the rain. Now, Friday, there looks to be a fairly decent advantage for the Friday PM portion. As you see, Friday, the sustained winds really pick up around noon or around lunchtime and stay throughout the rest of play on Friday, or at least that's the forecast, with gusts, into the 20s. But tomorrow is a complete wild card if we get the rain that they're projected to get, could cause delays. Delays could cause play into Saturday. As of right now, I am only factoring in players who are bad in the wind and generally just taking them out of consideration, considering Friday they're going to be dealing with wind regardless of the tee time. And then if we take a look at Saturday and Sunday, now Saturday morning looks kind of windy, but it falls off, and then Sunday looks windy, quite windy. So it looks like wind's going to be a factor on at least 2 of the 4 days, but I'm hesitant to declare any kind of wave advantage considering this rain that's supposed to come in tomorrow, and it's going to cause, you don't know what it's going to do, to be honest. It could cause delays for the players that are playing during the rain. It's going to be a hassle. It's not going to be pleasant conditions. But, is the PGA Tour going to play ball in hand from the beginning of the round? If they played ball in hand at the beginning of the round, man, that's going to be real easy for them, for the players who are playing in the morning. So a lot of questions. And as I do every week, I'm just going to suggest that if you have the opportunity to wait until the most recent wind finder forecast later this evening or even tomorrow morning, I'm suggesting that you do that. If this is your final wind finder forecast that you're able to get, I'm just going to play the players that we know are decent in the wind, because this is just too much question around this. Just way too much volatility around this. Is there going to be a delay? Are they going to play ball in hand? I just don't know. I just don't know. So with that, we'll move to Fantasy National. You see that I've got the moderate and windy filters selected. In the last 2 years, in moderate and windy conditions, our top performers have been Jordan Spieth, Denny McCarthy, Harry Hall, Patrick Rogers, Sung Jae, Kovac, Adam Schenk, Brendan Todd, and Eric Cole. Continuing on down just a little bit, Hubbard, Straka, Sam Stevens, Dylan Wu, Piercy, Michael Kim, Roger Sloan, Nate Lashley, Callum Tarrant, Aaron Rye. There's your top 20 or so in terms of top performers in the wind. And then the other side of that coin, players who haven't been good in the wind, Kevin Kisner, Carl Yuan, who had a very good Rocket Mortgage, Ryan Brim, Harrison Endicott, Russell Knox, Villegas, Wesley Bryan, James Hahn, Westmoreland, David Skins, Harry Higgs, Justin Lauer hasn't been particularly great in the wind. You see in the windiest of conditions he's been okay. It's the moderate, much like Tom Kim, that's hurting him. Griffin, Lonto Griffin, Tyson Alexander, Will Gordon, those are the players who have not been good in the wind in the past 2 years or 36 rounds in the field this week. So with that, let's go ahead and move to the mixed condition model that I've made for the John Deere this week. And we start with the fact that I ended up putting in a little bit off the tee. We've got 5% on off the tee when fairways are easy to hit. Now, normally I would have used maybe the easy relative to par filter or some other things, but with the wind, I do see a scenario where this might not be as easy as we might have thought originally throughout this week. I still think the winning score will be in the high teens. I do not think we will get a minus 20 winner, just due to the amount of wind that is in the forecast throughout the week. Now, Saturday looks fantastic. There should be great scoring on Saturday, but Friday and Sunday looks looks pretty tough, at least in terms of wind. So 5% in off the tee when fairways are easy to hit. You could argue to look at the driving distance, but I just felt more comfortable going with off the tee, considering there are areas of this golf course that it is just more prudent to lay up or find the fairway as opposed to just mashing driver. 15% approach, no surprise. To me, the most important shot type in golf. It's been pretty darn consistent year over year at the John Deere as well. So 15%, 10% on fast bent greens. This might be a slight error if they get the rain that they're forecasted to get. I could see the greens being a little bit soft, a little bit slower, but it with weather we just don't know. That's why it's unpredictable. Every single round the past 2 years has been fast. Majority of the rounds in the past 4 years have been fast. So that is the angle I'm taking, at least with putting. You definitely want to look at bent greens. You can argue to maybe not look at fast bent greens, but that's what we're doing here. 10% fast bent green putting. 10% good drives gained when the rough is long. And if you remember from Monday night's show, this is exactly what I looked at in last year's mixed condition model. I only had 5% in it, but it was actually fairly predictable. And with the John Deere Classic and TPC Deere Run, the rough is the main defense of the course. So the more I thought about it, the more I liked looking at this good drives gained, meaning, if players are hitting the fairways or they are still adept enough to hit the green from the rough. But, with this long rough, which is the biggest defense of TPC Deere Run, the more I thought about it, the more I liked what I looked at last year in this regard. So I have 10% in good drives gained on long rough. Hey, good evening, P. Happy 4th to you as well. I'm sure you'll see some occasional flashes of light and hear the fireworks in the background. They are already celebrating where I am, even though there's a storm going on too. People are crazy. But happy 4th to you as well. Hopefully you have some good plans for it. And we are at a tournament that is, relatively local to you. So looking forward to a strong week this week. Hopefully we're back on the winning ways. 10% in opportunities when scoring is easy to par. I mentioned this Monday. I really liked opportunities. I think the course might be a little bit softer, at least the greens might be a little bit softer if that rain does indeed come through. Generally speaking, the John Deere is easy. So 10% opportunities, 15% in birdies or better game. Like, players are still going to have to make birdies. Even if I don't think the winning score is going to get into the 20s like it generally does, players are still going to have to go low. This course is not difficult. Might not be as easy as we generally think it is, but it's definitely not difficult. So 15% in birdies or better. My slight angle this week, 5% in total procs. The more I looked at total procs, the more I thought it was pretty correlating. The players who play well here, 5% total procs. Hey, Wagon, happy 4th to you as well. Hopefully you have some good plans for it. And we are ready for the John Deere Classic. Thanks for jumping in chat this evening. So don't mind the flashes of light, and I'm sure you'll hear the fireworks throughout the show in the background here as people are already celebrating. But 5% total procs, 5% in total par 4s, 10% in the par 4s, 400 to 450. This is just the most important length of par 4 here at TPC Deere Run. And then, of course, to finalize the mixed condition model, 15% in the specific length of par 5s. In fact, all 3 par 5s on the scorecard measure to this length. They will get shortened or lengthened based on tees and pins and whatnot, but generally speaking, this is where about 70 to 75% of the strokes gained in par 5s falls in this range. So I think it's safe to say we just want to look at this range. So there's a look at the mixed condition model this weekend. It's crazy. We like our fireworks. That is one thing about the Hoosier State. We go crazy with them fireworks. But there's a look at the mixed condition model for this week's John Deere Classic. Some areas where I might be weak. Again, if we get that rain that we're expecting, the greens might not be rated as fast. So, it would probably be a more conservative and more safe approach to look at just bent putting. But I went with fast bent. If the course does not play as easy as it generally does, which I don't think it will, but if it's not rated as easy per Fantasy National, I could be a little bit weak with that as well, considering I've got opportunities and birdies or better when it's easy. But there's a look at the mixed condition model for this week. We move to Microsoft Excel, the reveal of my rankings. And again, a quick reminder to those of you who are returning viewers, for your information, if you're a new viewer, my rankings are based on 3 criteria. The FNGC rank, which is a straight numerical ranking based on the mixed condition model we just covered in Fantasy National, the metrics and the percentages in them. Course value, which is an attempt at giving a player a numerical value based on how well they've played that course in the past 5 years. Do note that since the John Deere Classic was canceled in 2020, this is only 4 years of data. Only 4 years, 2023, 22, 21, and 2019. And then the third bit that goes into my rankings is we are playing DFS. We are trying to find unique options. So percent owned or projected ownership per Fantasy National is also a part of my rankings. So my rankings go as such for this week's John Deere Classic. Number 1 is Lucas Glover, champion in 2021. Kevin Yu, Adam Svensson, Sepp Straka, and Sung Jae round out my top 5. Aaron Rai, Keith Mitchell, Bo Hostler, Doug Gim, Justin Lauer round out my top 10. Again, no real surprise here, even though a couple of these players like Keith Mitchell missed the cut last week. Sung Jae didn't play last week. Keith Mitchell's just been generally pretty darn good this year. It's really the putter that has betrayed him, as you see there. Deep red, 130th in this field. But nothing to complain about ball striking wise. Top 10 with the iron, still third in par 5s, or at least the length of par 5s here at TPC Deere Run. So a lot to like there with Keith Mitchell. Svensson, who missed the cut last week. I'm back on Adam Svensson, if you can't tell. I think this is a pretty good fit here. He's played well here. So no real surprise in the players that are in the top 10. You can always argue the ordering. Perhaps Doug Gim might be the biggest shock. He's getting helped by the fact that he seems to be, at least per Fantasy National, pretty unique. Ball striking has come back to Doug Gim ways. He's never going to be a good putter. He will have to be better on the par 5s. But you talk about good drives gained. I mean, just hitting greens, hitting fairways. He's not the longest player, but gives himself plenty of opportunities. We just have to hope that the putter cooperates. And by cooperating, meaning field average, because he's never going to spike like Denny McCarthy or Brendan Todd or any of these players. But otherwise, not a whole lot of surprise here for me in the top 10. I mean, Justin Lauer, last week's number 1 player, had a decent tournament, top 25, or T25 exactly. So we let's move to sorting on this price board. Figure out where, at least per Fantasy National, members are gravitating towards in these various areas of the price board, and see the players who might be potential pivots. So in the 5 digits, in the 10Ks, we have 4 players thanks to Patrick Cantley's withdrawal. Now we have Jordan Spieth, Sepp Straka, Sung Jae, and Aaron Rai. The interesting part about, or interesting challenge this week with the John Deere in terms of DFS is that our most expensive player is $10,500. Again, with Patrick Cantley's withdrawal, a very, very cheap top end this week with the John Deere Classic. You can see I like 3 of these players, 4th, 5th, and 6th in my rankings. I'm just nowhere near Jordan Spieth. He's not been very good. His tournament history here is extremely solid, a 2-time winner here, but he hasn't played this tournament for 9 years. And with the Open Championship coming up, Scottish Open, there's been some talk, like why are bigger names here like Jordan Spieth, like Sung Jae, like Jason Day, unless they're trying to work on something in their game. Now, one of those 3 players I really like, and you can probably tell by the rankings, but I'm not comfortable with going to Spieth this week. I'm just not. Even though he is seemingly the pivot in the 10Ks, I just can't get there. Otherwise, it really isn't going to matter who you choose in the 10Ks. They're all going to get used. Anywhere between 18 to 20%. I would not be surprised if all 3 of these ownerships creep over 20% in our big GPPs. Sung Jae does appear to be the most projected owned player, but I would have no reason to avoid him. Not a red or pink statistic among the ones that we gathered. You see Sepp Straka, he's actually not been great on the par 5s of this length this year. Rye has not been great on specifically fast bent. Now, yes, last week was bent and Poa Annua, but it's not. They weren't pure bent. All 3 of these players will be fine. I'm going to go towards Sung Jae, even though he's the most owned, at least projected on the slate. I just like where Sung Jae is. Going back to the Masters, I don't think people realize this. Going back to the Masters, the only time he's missed the cut has been in a major. Literally every other tournament since the Masters, he's top 15. He's been playing extremely well. He just doesn't have the win. So because of the perceived floor, the perceived high floor, I'm going to be more overweight on Sung Jae. I'm still going to have a little bit of Straka. I'm still going to have a little bit of Aaron Rye. The putter does scare me a little bit with Rye. Straka's been fine, but I'm just most confident in Sung Jae, and that's where I'm going this week. If I'm in the 10Ks, I'm building two pretty distinct types of lineups, and we'll cover that towards the end of the show. But I'm most comfortable with Sung Jae in the 10Ks, so I'll make him my number 1 player in the 5 digits. I'll probably go Straka second, Rye third, and then I just won't want any part of Jordan Spieth. Moving into the 9Ks, Mav, Davis Thompson, McCarthy, J-Day, Mitchell, Poston, and Stevens. Despite the fact that Stevens played very well last week, I'm still not buying into it yet. The irons still haven't been great. He is more of an off-the-tee centric type player. I've only got that at 5% in my mixed condition model. Now, he does take care of par 5s, and you absolutely have to do that here. So, maybe a little bit of a gamble on my end, but I'm just not there. J-Day, he is certainly very unique in the 9Ks. I can't get there. Again, the irons have not been particularly great. He is a great putter on bent. But, the irons have been bad. The proximities or the opportunities have been bad. The proximity's been bad. I can't get there even at a 4% Jason Day. Literally everybody else in the 9Ks is fine. It's fine. I'm not crazy about it. McNeely, Thompson, McCarthy. These guys are all going to be very popular in terms of DFS. We'll see some of these players on my betting card later tonight, and that's the exposure that I'm choosing to take with a lot of these players. But in terms of DFS, they're just extremely popular, And because the 10Ks are so cheap, I'd much rather just go into the 10Ks, particularly Sanjay, but I would just much rather go into the 10Ks if I'm up here in the upper nines. Yeah, Davis Thompson's been playing very well. He plays well when it's easy. He's probably the one player that, kind of concerns me the most, but he's also the most projected owned of these upper nines. McCarthy's probably the one that has the best spike ability or the chance to win just because of his putter, but man, his irons haven't been as great lately. So I'll have each one of these guys maybe a time or two, but this whole region here is just kind of a fade for me. And really, the entire nines is really kind of a fade. I'll talk about Mitchell and Poston here in a second, but especially these three, I'm going to be pretty far underweight on these three specifically because they're looking like they're going to be pretty popular. I would much rather just go into the 10Ks because the 10Ks are just so cheap, particularly Sung Jae, Straka even. So in the upper nines, I'd probably make Thompson my top player just because of the way he's been playing lately. But I think the one that has the best chance to win, I think, is Denny McCarthy because of the putter. I think. Talking about Keith Mitchell and Poston, I'm going to have some Keith Mitchell. He burned me last week. You just got to believe that he'll make some putts. Some. You're not asking for a lot. And if he doesn't, he'll struggle again like he did last week. But everything other than the putter is pretty darn good. Yeah, the birdies are better when it's easy isn't great, but irons have been great. The par 5 performance has been great. Top 10 off the tee. Top 15 in procs. Like, it's literally just about the putter. And then the other side of the coin, the inverse almost of Keith Mitchell, is Poston, who again I'll have maybe a time or two, but the irons haven't been good for him. He hasn't been good on the par 5s. He has been good with the putter. Now, Poston won this 2 years ago. He's got a pretty good course history. Okay. But both of these players have flaws that make me a little hesitant to commit to and put them in a lot of lineups. This is more of a covering myself, making sure I have them in one or two lineups as opposed to really gravitating towards them. So in all honesty, the entire 9K region is a fade for me. Understand, by me saying that's a fade, I'm going to have these guys once or twice, but I'm not going to make them a part of my core, especially considering how chalky they appear to be. Moving into the 8s, I really like Kevin Yu. I know we just talked about the putter and Keith Mitchell, but Kevin Yu's played here one time. He finished 6th. He also gained 8 strokes that week. You can't expect that at all. You cannot expect that. But he has shown in a very small sample size that he was able to read these greens while he spiked. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the ability to spike. So Kevin Yu has shown that specifically here at the John Deere Classic, despite the fact that his putter is generally woeful. You see, number two in irons in this field. Top 10 in opportunities. 4th off the tee. This guy's a ball striking extraordinaire. Again, like Keith Mitchell, you're just hoping that he has a decent putting week. And by decent means field average, game 1. And he's going to be pretty darn solid for you. So I really like Kevin Yu. I like Lucas Glover a lot. I do worry that he might be a little bit more popular than this 11% that Fantasy National projects just because he's a former winner here. But the course value, he just loves playing here. The irons have still been good. He's probably a little bit better putter now that he has the broomstick than what is showing here. 2nd in good drives gained. 3rd in opportunities. 3rd in proximity. It's off your screen, but 3rd in proximity. A lot to like with Lucas Glover. And If he's anywhere less than maybe 14%, I'd be happy. 14 to 16% starts to get a little bit much, but considering the fact that I'm fading the 9Ks, I'm going to have my fair share of Lucas Glover. Amateur, Luke Clanton, a lot of things line up for him pretty well. And of course, he's hot coming off a fantastic Rocket Mortgage. Eric Cole could be interesting this week. We talk about Eric Cole, and he's the number one birdie or better guy when it's easy. He gets a bunch of birdies. He'll get some bogeys too, because the irons haven't been good, great. I think they're a little bit better than this. And he can get a little bit wayward off the tee. But it's the fact that he can just get a bunch of birdies because he's a pretty good putter. So I like Eric Cole. Adam Svensson, another player that I really, really like. I'm shocked that he's sub 10%. I guess people are off of him from his poor performance last week. Give me all the Adam Svensson I can handle. If he is indeed sub 10%, irons are still fine. He's a very good putter on bent, very good putter in general. Plenty of opportunities. He demolishes this length of par fours. I really like Adam Svensson this week. I do. Hostler, pretty unique. The irons are unserious. But number one par 5 guy, also a good putter, should be good. Pretty unique. Hey, good evening, Darnell. Thanks for jumping in chat. Happy 4th to you. Hopefully you have some fun plans for tomorrow. Thanks for jumping in chat. Let's go. We're going to be trying to get back on the winning ways. It's been a rough couple of weeks, admittedly, for me. So we're going to try and turn our fortunes around. So, in the 8Ks, I didn't even talk about Nick Dunlap. He should be fine. He's going to be popular, but Nick Dunlap should be fine. Demolishes par 5s, which you have to do here. Hubbard, Power, fine. I just didn't mention them because they're pretty popular. Instead, like I said, Kevin Yu at 9%. I'm afraid Lucas Glover will be a little bit more popular than 11% that Fantasy National projects, but he is the number one player in my rankings. I do like Lucas Glover, and give me all the Adam Svensson I can handle if he is indeed sub 10%. I'm not scared off by last week's performance from Adam Svensson. So let's look at the 8s. Move to the upper 7s. Again, Ben Griffin with the eye issue. It hasn't prevented him from playing well, or at least making some cuts lately. Anytime I know a player is dealing with something, I'm just going to shy away. And if Ben Griffin plays well, I'll lose. I accept that. The irons have been very good. He's generally a better putter, but that's another reason why I'm taking a very, very cautious approach on Ben Griffin, because the putter, if you're not able to see or not able to see at your best, Adam Schenk should be fine. Course value is off the charts. Irons haven't been very good this year, especially lately. So that is reason, cause for concern. The putter's always good on bent. It can go low when it's easy. I do like some Adam Schenk, especially at 7%. Doug Gim, talking about the inverse of Schenk, great irons, no putting. You got to hope that he putts well, but I'll have some Doug Gim this week. I'm back on the Rio Hitsatsune train like I was last week at the Rocket Mortgage. Number one in par 4s from 400 to 450. We know how important those are at John Deere. Third in birdies are better when it's easy. The irons have been good. I like a lot with Rio Hitsatsune. So much like the 8Ks, Adam Schenk I'm going to be using. Doug Gim I'm going to be using. Hitsatsune. And that's why I'm fading the 9s. Because I can find some uniqueness elsewhere. Mid 7s. Neil Shipley. This guy hasn't done anything wrong. I understand Luke Clanton was competitive, competing to win last week. Neil Shipley hasn't done anything wrong. He's getting a little bit of ownership, sure, but you look at the performance of the Masters and at the U.S. Open. I like Neil Shipley this week. Andrew Novak's a little bit too owned or too chalky for my liking, particularly because the putter on bent hasn't been great and not necessarily the best at birdies when it's easy. So Novak's a fade for me and a full fade. So if Novak, this is where I'm planting my flag. If Novak plays well, I will lose. This is my bold call or whatever. I'm not playing any Andrew Novak. He'll be steamed up so much. I mean, he could be. Again, all I can go by is these projections on Fantasy National. People do seem to be coming around on Ryo Hitsatsune, so I wouldn't be surprised if he is indeed a little bit more than this 10.5%, Darnell. But, I mean, there's a lot to like here, so I'm going to be using him. But you have plenty of options here in the upper and mid sevens. Again, I know you play Yahoo, so I don't know what the pricing is over there, but you know, if these are the same players that are around his price point, you got plenty of options that you don't have to use him by any means. Moving into the low, in the mid sevens, Neil Shipley's really the only one I'm interested in. You could maybe think about Berger, but him missing the cut last week, I used him a little bit in the 150 contest, and it didn't pan out. So just still a little gun shy until we get more consistency from Daniel Berger. In the low sevens, there's several players. What do you think about Luke Clanton? I mean, he's fine. He's just popular, at least per Fantasy National. I mean, he's at 11%. If he's min price, that seems like a horrendous mispricing. You almost kind of have to use him, but I would not be surprised if he's very popular at the min price. But at min price, I mean, geez, you could squeeze in whatever you wanted up top, considering it's so cheap up there. So I mean, it's fine. I don't mind it at all. I'll be using some Luke Clanton. Not as much as some others, just because I think he will be fairly popular. But that just seems like a horrible mispricing on Yahoo's part. Coming back down to these low sevens, there's several, and I mean several players in here that I like, and this is the kind of the area of the price board where I'm going to take a lot of chances. I'm not going to be really all in on anybody down here. Just going to kind of take the scatter shot approach, if you will, and try to hit on one of these guys. Let's talk about Jacob Bridgman. Sub 10%, good irons, par fives. He's been great. You got to take advantage of those. He's been a decent putter on fast bent greens as well. Proximity, pretty solid. So I like Jacob Bridgman. He's somebody to think about. Joel Damon's going to get a lot of attention, probably for decent reason. He's been playing pretty well, but I would be a little bit cautious on Joel Damon. You see this course value. He's not been very good here, and the putter hasn't been great. So I would be quite cautious on Joel Damon. I understand why somebody would like him, but I think there's enough in the low sevens that you don't have to use Joel Damon. I'm back on the SH Kim again. I know it didn't work last week. I know this course value is not great. I'm just a believer in SH Kim and his game. Goes low. He gets plenty of birdies, gets plenty of bogeys, but he gets plenty of birdies. Par fives are good. Fast bent greens, he's putt well. So I like SH Kim. Of course, Justin Lauer being 10th in my rankings. I'm going to use plenty of him. He is gaining some attention. So maybe not as much on Justin Lauer, but still going to use him. You can look at Dylan Wu. He top 10 last week as a very unique play. This was one of the few players that I got right last week was Dylan Wu. I was very high on him. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be serviceable again this week. Rico Hoey, I think, is pretty solid for this week. Mac Meisner, Chan Kim, both of those players I kind of like at 7,000 even. I do love SH Kim. I do. I mean, analytically, other than the fact that his irons, and I think the irons are better than what is being shown here. Let's go to Fantasy National just very, very quickly, because I really do think his irons are better than what has been showing. Let's go to SH Kim real quick. I'll change the page view. Like, he's a decent putter. Yeah, Poa is his preferred surface, but a decent putter. Maybe not the best in the wind, but you could argue that the John Deere, I mean, John Deere's not difficult, so you don't have to worry about that. His ball striking hasn't been good extremely lately. I get that. But it wasn't too long ago, like, you know, around the Masters time. I know he didn't play in the Masters, but look at the ball striking before that. The irons were fine. They were fine. He's never been much of an off-the-tee guy. And the putter is hot right now. I mean, red hot right now. So, yeah, I do love me some SH Kim. And if he doesn't play well, I'll lose. But you can always count on him being pretty unique as well. And again, it's not like I'm putting him in every lineup. Again, remember, with these low sevens, I'm taking shots at several different players. That's why I'm throwing out so many different players, because I've got a pretty tight core up in the 10s and 8s that I'm just scattershotting the low sevens. I'll have some Bridgman. I'll take a shot on SH Kim. I'll have a Damon maybe. I'll have Justin Lauer. Johnny Vegas has been very good here in 2 trips in the past 5 years. Plenty of irons. Good drives gained. I mean, he's plenty long as well. But Johnny Vegas is somebody else that I'm going to take a shot on. Again, Rico Hoey, Mac Meisner, Chan Kim. Like Chan Kim, look at this. 8th in irons, 1st in birdies or better when it's easy, tied with a couple other players, but Chan Kim will get plenty of birdies as well. So I'm just going to take a big scatter shot approach on these low sevens. Not going to really focus in on any one player, and I'm going to hope that some of these guys hit. Probably getting off the Joel Damon chalk. He's all over the place. If his putter isn't red hot, he'll miss the cut. I mean, that's what happened last week, sure. You gained strokes on the green and still missed the cut. You're right. But that's the risk that I'm willing to take, again, because I play many lineups. So I can afford to take a chance on a guy like that. If you're only playing 1 or 2 lineups, then yeah, maybe not. Probably not. But I play several lineups. So I can take a chance on throwing him in a lineup or 2. Moving to the 6s, there are a couple of players that I do want to highlight for you all in the 6s. I wouldn't go crazy with it though, but again, remember, this top half, or this 5 digits, yeah, it's absolutely a hedge play. 5 digits area is cheap, extremely cheap. So you don't have to come into the 6s. You don't. I will mention a couple of names for you all in case you all want to get a little bit more greedy or build some stars and scrubs. Again, David Skins, a pretty solid play last week. Be pretty useful, although he's not the best in the wind, so be aware of that. You can take a look at him. Harry Hall again, rated out fairly well. A lot of that's based on being the number 1 putter on fast bent. Not in love with Harry Hall, but I don't want to ignore him. Kelly Craft. If you're looking for players that are generally in good form, Kelly Craft, top 10 in irons, good putter. Hasn't been the best here, but it's okay. The mad scientist play for me this week in the 6Ks. We're going to see him a lot later tonight on my most used players, my betting card. Mad scientist play is Alex Smalley. The guy's 3 for 3 here at the John Deere Classic. The irons are better than what's showing here. And the fact that he is a horrendous putter, but he's actually been field average at the John Deere, and it's not a small sample size like Kevin Yu. He's got 3 tournaments under his belt here. There's something about these greens that he's comfortable with. I can't say he's good. He's comfortable with. Good drives gained. First in opportunities. Number 1 in opportunities. Very good on these short par 4s. So the mad scientist play this week is Alex Smalley. He is the one player in the 6Ks that I'll use more often than these others that I mentioned. If he doesn't play well, I'll lose, but I'm going to have a decent amount of exposure to Alex Smalley, especially since I think he's going to be pretty darn unique. So there's a look at the price board where at least the members of Fantasy National seem to be going, and some potential pivots around them. Let's start making some lineups. We'll start with those who play tiers contest. Tier 1, we only have 2 options thanks to Patrick Cantlay's withdrawal. Tier 1, we have Jordan Spieth or Sepp Straka. I don't care. It's Sepp Straka for me. I want no part of Spieth. If he plays well, I'll lose, whatever. I'm just not confident in it. So give me Sepp Straka in Tier 1. Tier 2, Sungjae, Rai, McNeely, Davis Thompson, Jason Day. Very clear Sungjae for me, at least in Tier 2. All 4 of these players are going to be pretty popular, so I imagine he might not be the most owned in that tier. He probably will be just because of the name recognition, but I don't think his ownership is going to be so prohibitive that you have to think about fading him. Just give me Sungjae in Tier 2. I'm just pretty confident in it. Tier 3, McCarthy, Mitchell, Poston, Dunlap. Not crazy. Hasn't done anything in 3 years. I can't say 3 years, but he's not been good lately. You're not wrong with that. He's not been good in the immediacy. I don't know about Tier 3. I wish I could just skip it. All of these players have reasons to take them, and all 4 of these players have reasons to avoid them. Like Keith Mitchell, his putter is just woeful. Nick Dunlap, probably like the most conservative in this range. The highest floor, but the lowest ceiling in my mind. McCarthy, to me, still has the biggest spikeability just because of his putter. Because of that, I'll probably take McCarthy, but you can sell me on taking any one of these 4, and you can convince me not to take any of these 4. I'm just not there. I don't know. Give me McCarthy. I don't know. This is 1A, B, C, A, and D for me. I just don't have a strong feeling on Tier 3. Tier 4, Sam Stevens, Kevin Yu, Lucas Glover, Luke Clanton, Eric Cole, Mark Hubbard, Adams Vinson. If the ownerships are anything like what Fantasy National is projecting, give me Adams Vinson. Very, very high on Adams Vinson. Kevin Yu could be interesting as well if you want a quote safer play. It's Lucas Glover. Luke Clanton's also fine in this tier, but give me Adams Vinson. I think Vincent's going to shock some people this week. So give me Vincent in Tier 4. Tier 5, Seamus, Bo Hostler, Ben Griffin, Rogers, Shank, and Thorbjornsen. Give me Shank. That's fine. Seamus Power, probably a fine play, but he's going to be the most chalky play in the tier. And because we've taken Sungjae and we took Denny McCarthy, give me Adam Shank in Tier 5. And then Tier 6, we go Chan Kim, Nick Hardy, Springer, Smalley, Skins, Campillo, and Tway. Chan Kim is quite interesting. I don't want you to ignore Chan Kim. If you play multiple tiers lineups, you might want to have some exposure to Chan Kim, but the mad scientist play this week is Alex Smalley, so he's my choice. This tier's construction goes Straka, Sungjae, Denny McCarthy. Tier 4 is Adams Vinson. Tier 5 is Adam Shank. Tier 6 is Alex Smalley. All right, let's move to classic lineups. Figure out how we can maneuver around all of this chalk in our big GPPs and find a way to bring in a good payday this week. If we're going to try to build some chalky lineups to know what we're trying to work against, I'm going to start with Sung Jae only because he's the most projected owned per Fantasy National. Insert Straka or Rai, whoever you think is going to be the most popular player. But I'll just use Sung Jae because he's projected to be the most owned. And this is the player that I like the most. So we're going to be using some Sung Jae as well in the lineups to try to get some uniqueness. But we'll go Sung Jae, and then it's Davis Thompson at 96. And then moving down into the 8s, like Seamus Powers getting a lot of attention. No one in the 6Ks, at least per Fantasy National. Okay, I take that back. Troy Merritt is right at 10% in the 6Ks. So at least per Fantasy National, if our fellow contestants are moving into the 6Ks, it looks to be Troy Merritt. Skins is at 8%. Kazire's at 8%. Coles and Kraft are also at 8%. So there is a little bit of play in the 8% or in the 6Ks. But it looks like majority of our fellow contestants, at least per Fantasy National, seem to be stopping at Justin Lauer or even Joel Damon. So we might have to come off Davis Thompson a little bit, but if this is Joel Damon at 73, yeah, we're definitely going to have to come off of him. Andrew Novak at 75, who is a complete full fade for me. This could be a 6K, so we could be looking at the shell of a chalky lineup here, but I'm trying not to go into the 6Ks, considering it doesn't appear that many, or at least Fantasy National isn't projecting many people to go in there, and so this is looking like the shell of a chalky lineup here. Sung Jae, choose whatever 9 could be posted. Maybe Mitchell. Maybe they come down a little bit to Dunlap, or maybe they could be using a Davis Thompson and choose whatever 6K. So there's one iteration. The other would be Davis Thompson or McNeely or McCarthy. Choose whichever. I'm just using Thompson because he's the projected most owned. They come off of maybe they come off of Shipley. This is Novak, Damon, and then this was Troy Merritt. This is leaving 200 on the table, but similar level of ownership here if they are coming down into the 6s. The other way that it seems like lineups are getting built perhaps is a more balanced look. We used Thompson, so let's use McNeely. We'll go McNeely, Keith Mitchell, Mark Hubbard's going to be popular. Seamus is probably in here as well. Yeah, Seamus. Yeah, that's a little bit too much. We'll go Shipley or Novak. Hitsatsune is getting a little bit as well. Let's go Novak. In fact, this is Novak, Shipley, Damon. Just the same crew of people. Again, leaving a little bit on the table, but again, a very, very, very similar level of ownership here. More of a balanced look. Instead of going into the 10Ks, they're going maybe double 9s or a high 9 and 2 8s. So how are we going to combat all of this chalk? Well, for me, I've been building two very, very distinct lineups. The first is, again, I've been using Sung Jae, who is the projected most owned player, but I've been getting a little bit more greedy, considering I'm willing to come down to Alex Smalley, the Mad Scientist play, and I gave you so many choices and players to think about down here in the low sevens. Bridgman, sub 10%. SH Kim, sub 3%. Johnny Vegas, 8.5%. Dylan Wu, Rico Hoey, Chan Kim. So several options down here. Depending on how many times you want to come down into the low sevens will kind of dictate what you're willing to do up top. You can easily go as Sung Jae and Aaron Rai if you're willing to come down into the low sevens along with a 6K like Smalley. Let's throw Rico Hoey into this, who was solid last week. I don't see this playing a whole lot different than the Rocket Mortgage. And you're still up in the upper sevens for 2 spots. You can come into the low 8s if you want. Maybe you like a Seamus or a Mark Hubbard. Eric Cole could be interesting. I'm not necessarily as high on Bo Hostler, but Bo Hostler, elite putting. Ben Griffin, Adam Schenk. So if we go something like Adam Schenk, at least it's 8,000 even. Ben Griffin, not too much there. Let's drop a little bit. Let's say Doug Gim. Irons, team no putt, sure, but you're at least going on a narrative of the putting isn't going to be as big of a deal because Aaron Rye's not a good putter. Doug Gim, not a good putter. Alex Smalley, not a good putter. You're at least going on this narrative here. And then 8,100 is Bo Hostler, who is a good putter, but that gives you an idea that you can use these double 10s or a 10 and a 9 pretty darn easily, depending on how much you're willing to flirt with those low 7s. And you see this ownership. I mean, sub 65% cumulative. That's pretty darn solid. This is probably a unique lineup. Sung Jae and Aaron Rai might not be the most unique combination. You're probably setting yourself up for a 4v4, but Alex Smalley and Doug Gim, ball striking extraordinaires. Hostler's been playing okay lately, so this is one way you can combat the chalk if you're willing to maybe drop into the 6s, combine it with a low 7, do a double 10, do a Sung Jae and a McNeely, Sung Jae and a Straka, something to that effect. But the way I've been going most about this, I've been building balanced lineups with a lot of these unique plays. At the center of it is Adams Vincent. He might be here, but I'm just inserting him there for now. Again, I mentioned how I would use a little bit of McNeely. I'll use a little bit of Thompson, maybe a McCarthy. I honestly don't mind starting a lineup or two with Keith Mitchell or JT Poston and really just hammering these 8s. I love a lot in the 8s. So, we'll go Lucas Glover. He goes here. Lucas Glover. Kevin Yu. I mean, we got 3 spots at 8,100 here. We can throw in an Adam Schenk. Come down to a Ryo Hitsatsune or a Doug Gim. Spawn if you're there. Berger, I'm not necessarily as much in love with. Jacob Bridgman, who I mentioned. This is 9,300 again. This is that Keith Mitchell. But you can mix and match this very easily. If you're extremely high on a Luke Clanton at 85, 86, 86, I mean, shoot. Take one of these 2 off, maybe Glover, because he might be a little bit more chalky than 11%. But if you're really high on Clanton, there you go. That's a sub 60% cumulative ownership lineup. This is probably unique. If you're willing to build a balanced lineup and just fade the entirety of the 5 digits and upper 9s, which I'm willing to do. I just McNeely, Thompson, McCarthy, these guys just don't excite me all that much. I am pretty high on Sung Jae, so I'll have my fair share of Sung Jae lineups. But anytime I'm not using a Sung Jae, I'm building, this kind of this kind of lineup here. And just mixing and matching with Vincent and Kevin Yu and Lucas Glover. I'll throw in some Luke Clanton. I'll throw in some Eric Cole as well into this. You know, maybe like if I do one lineup like this, the next lineup I might switch it up, put in a Poston, do a Lucas Glover, and that leaves me a little bit more for Eric Cole. But you see the idea behind all this is that I have my very, very tight core, and then I'm just trying to find the right combination of 2 guys, maybe 3 guys in that lineup that that'll hit. Who do I like more than Damon? I like several more than Damon, even though Damon rated out extremely well. It's not that I hate Damon. I like him. He was 20th in my rankings. I don't like him, at least in big GPPs, because he's going to be popular. But in a single entry, it makes a lot of sense. It does. Issue has been his putter. The irons have been great. Opportunities, second, behind Alex Smalley. Been great with proximity. Second in proximity. It's right off your screen. The issue's been the putter. This can turn into a putting contest. And his history here isn't the best. Let me show you Damon just very, very quickly. It's not good. His course history here. So I understand why people like him, because he finished runner-up in 2018. But look at his performance otherwise. Miscut, miscut, miscut. So the players around his price that I like, again, S.H. Kim's his same price. We talked about him earlier. Justin Lauer. What's wrong with Justin Lauer? He's been great. He's coming off a top 25. I mentioned Jacob Bridgman. Bridgman's good on this surface. He's not necessarily the name recognition, but he's been playing really, really well lately. His irons have been better than Damon in the last 3 months. Someone to think about there. Johnny Vegas. If you're a big believer in course history, Johnny Vegas is 2 for 2 the past 5 years here. Brendan Todd's been very good, he's been very good here, although you look at the irons, they haven't been very good lately, so I'd be wary on Brandon Todd. But just highlighting the guys that have been good here, like Johnny Vegas, if you're a big believer in course history. But I like Johnny Vegas, Justin Lauer, Dylan Wu, Rico Hoey, Mac Meisner, Chan Kim, all these guys around his price. Even Neil Shipley. Nothing wrong with Neil Shipley. So hopefully that gives you an answer or a few possible names that you can maneuver around Joel Damon. I got a couple of questions to answer, but feel free to put any more questions into chat. Poll question: how much are you factoring in last week's performance for those who played? I'm in general agreement with the community here. The winner was a little, so you're factoring in a little. I'm somewhere between a little and not at all. With putting contests like the Rocket Mortgage can turn into, like the John Deere can turn into, putting is such a volatile and fickle statistic. I just want to see the guys who have been ball striking it well lately and hope that they hit, they spike with their putter. So my technical answer would be a little, but I'm much more in the not at all side of that answer. So there's that. One and done. I used Pendrith last week. That was not good. It was not a good choice. However, I did move up in the rankings or in the standings because so many people used Tom Kim. So at least I gained a little bit of money. This week, my first click was Adams Vinson. It just seems like people are off of Svensson because of his bad performance last week, and like I just said, I'm looking for the players who are generally still in good form, ball striking, and putting contests. I mean, putting is just fickle. So, and Svensson's pretty darn good on bent, like pure bent. So my first click was Svensson. I have a couple other options. I haven't used Sungjae, or I have used Sungjae actually. I mean, I could use Aaron Rai, I guess, but he's probably going to be one of the more chosen people for one and done. I imagine Davis Thompson will be chosen a lot for one and done. McCarthy probably going to be chosen quite a bit for one and done. Kevin Hughes a little bit too volatile with the putter for my liking. Although this is the kind of player I need to start probably think about using if I want to threaten to win my division. But my first click on one and done was Adam Svensson. I feel pretty good with it. I'm pretty confident this week in Adam Svensson. Famous last words. You can at me whenever he misses the cut. But one and done for me is Adam Svensson. But that's what I have for you all in terms of a DFS Tactics show for the John Deere. Thanks to P, Awaken, and Darnell for jumping in chat. It's very much appreciated. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do, taking an in-depth look at golf statistics and trying to help us win a little bit of money in the process. A lot of weeks, or some weeks better than others. We're going to try to get back on the winning ways, considering it's been a rough couple of weeks for me. Reminder that I'm going to be over in Gabe's Substack chat here momentarily. If you're not subscribed to his article, his handle is in the description. You're really missing out on a lot of good DFS discussion over there as well. So I highly suggest you follow me on over there. Happy 4th to everybody. Be safe. Enjoy the fireworks. Enjoy all the good food and grilling out and all that. And yeah, happy Independence Day to this great country of ours. For all the wagers you have made this week for the John Deere Classic, for all the DFS contests you play this week for the John Deere Classic, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.